How's everybody doing?
How are you?
Good, 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 good. I know you've been with I think I actually got Clint on the front end too, right? So met with Clint. I think you got a chance to be in front of all the new guys and obviously Barry and Aaron. Thought I'd just do a couple house cleaning items. Obviously, tomorrow we'll start our first spring practice. We'll get these 15 practices. For the majority, we're going to go every Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday. Just because of class conflicts and the ability to kind of get what we need to do on Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays. We'll start practices pretty early on Tuesday and Thursday, literally be done by about a little before 9 o'clock every day. So our meetings start at 6. We'll be on the field roughly about 7 and go till about 9. The only caveat to that during Easter weekend, I'm going to actually we practiced before on Saturday of Easter weekend. I just think that weekend to have that ability to have kids go home. We'll practice on that Friday and then let the guys go. We won't practice on Saturday of Easter weekend, and that's the only adjustment to the schedule we've kind of made. It's still 15 practices to have basically the same rules from a year ago. Just talked to a lot of coaches from a year ago to now about the setup of spring ball. I think the portal world makes a lot of people think about what they're doing, how they're doing it. Some teams don't even really have a scrimmage anymore, but I think the ability to have guys play together, communicate, and talk as few times as we get is still pretty important. But we will modify a little bit of how we go about spring ball this year, but it really won't be much from the outside world looking in. A couple of injury wise, we do have some guys. Not sure what Barry and Aaron covered, but on offense side, Caden Fagan is coming along great, doing an unbelievable job. Looks good. Has been more and more involved, but he will not be able to have contact and involved in spring ball. Jordan Anderson, same deal, recovering extremely well from his ACL, but he won't be cleared for spring ball. Henry Boyer looks great, incredibly excited about his bright future, but unfortunately, because of his injury rehab timetable, he will not be able to have a spring ball session as well. That's on offense. Those guys will be out, and on defense side of the ball, obviously, you guys knew of the injury to Kaneno Odolaga. He won't be involved in spring drills, but will be in his rehab. He looks great. He looks like he's been in the thick of it the whole way, but he's limited on his recovery plan now to be engaged spring ball. Xavier Scott also had a couple different procedures done during the out of season. Won't be with us through spring ball as well on defense, and then a new one just about 2 weeks old. James Kreutz, unfortunately, James had an injury to his chest and required surgery, so it's going to be okay, but he won't be able to go through anything with us during spring ball. So that one is new that you probably didn't know anything about. But other than that, we'll have some guys with some soft tissue. We got a couple of guys that have had some hamstrings coming out of the end of winter conditioning, but should be pretty full go for the beginning of fall spring camp here, and then we'll adjust it as it is. The only other thing, with this time of year, we're going to kind of start in the red area here the first week here, Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday. Our first full padded practice will be on Saturday, and then next week we'll jump into out in the field work. Try to give you guys at least once or twice a week an opportunity to come to watch some of the drill work and see exactly where some of these guys have progressed. But just really excited. Obviously, a group of players, a group of coaches. Couldn't be more excited about the 4 new coaches we brought in. Also, offensively, Byron Bell and Art Sikowski did a release on those guys stepping in a new role. So just a really fun time in the building here, and we'll see where we can go. With that, I'll open it up for questions.
Hi, Coach. Is there what specifically would you like to accomplish this spring on the defensive side of the ball with Aaron Henry starting his second year as the coordinator amidst some significant changes, on the staff and some roster turnover?
Yeah, two things. I think in spring ball, it doesn't matter offense, defense, special teams. If somebody want to ask me the same question, offense, what we're going to try to do is obviously take the things that we learned during the out of season in our review, our season analysis, our critiques, try to improve on the things we need to improve on. We try to build upon the strengths. And then overall, collectively with our roster, we obviously have a lot of returning players, want to see the development of that, but we want to see the new skill set that are new players that we haven't had a chance to be with on both sides of the ball and in the kicking game, see what they have, right? And then just the number one goal is to get better every day. We have 5-week window here of spring ball to get ready, for basically fall camp. And you got 5 weeks here that we're going to get that work done. When we start with fall camp, we literally have 4 weeks of fall camp before we have game week, right? So it's really taking advantage of every day, trying to improve on it and make ourselves better at the beginning of the day than we were at the end of every day than when we started.
Aaron talked about trying to find some players that can help them this spring, and on the defensive front, how have the newcomers looked in terms of the guys you brought in from the portal?
Yeah, very excited. I think we did a lot of diligence a year ago. Some of these guys that came to reality for us in the months of December and January, guys that we had been on for a number of months, number of weeks, evaluating. Literally the first day of live recruiting was very strategic about where I was, what I did. And in the month of the month of December in general, a lot of our high school recruiting was done, right? We really had been done with that since June. So it was really portal work. And I think overall, I'm going to be very excited of what we've seen so far. But yeah, to see Anthony Johnson, to see Sledge, to see Dennis Briggs up front, to see Daniel Brown on the edge, to see Chase Canada in the back end. There's a number of guys, and then high school players coming in, Angela McCollum, Demetrius as well. Just really excited. Don't really want to give any pressure or thoughts, but those guys have been impressive in the building and impressive to their teammates to this point. Do have one position change on defense too, just in conversations with our guys about opportunities that would go forward. I think the only other offensively, Jared Beatty will move to the inside backer room and give us some a new person to work with in there. Had been really good on the outside, but I think just overall want to kind of give his just kind of a refresher, right? He had been in the outside backer room, had been banged up during fall and spring camp, and to get him in the inside backer room, which he had played in high school, wanted to see what that looks like, and he's excited to be there.
Thank you.
Bret, I just want to follow up on something you tweeted I was going to ask you about. You had all these transfers to obviously help you right away, but the development of your returning guys, the first couple of recruiting classes you brought in, what do you want to see this spring, and what usually do you see to feel good about that going into the fall?
It's just really growth, to be honest. I mean, it's seeing guys that, a year ago looked like this. I mean, some guys are going to jump on. Alex Bray looks like an incredibly different person on the defense side of the ball. Just movement-wise, skill set. Trey Smith, again, a guy that came in a year ago in January, to see where he is right now. On the perimeter, Zach Tobey looks a lot different, got a lot more bumps in all the right places. Just certain guys physically, we did a 13-point weekly evaluation during the 8 weeks of spring football or of winter conditioning that we literally did a daily checkbook on weight gain or loss or maintenance, whatever it was. Accountability to their teammates in several categories, and accountability to the locker room, accountability to the academic world, and really saw the emotional and the mental development of a lot of our players as well, which you really don't see until they get on the field. So it's been a fun time to watch, and I'm excited to see the results.
Just a few years of building this roster, Bret, how do you feel about the development in the way it's going? Obviously, you developed a lot of NFL guys here recently, so how do you feel about those guys coming up behind them?
Yeah, case in point, you take the outside backer room and Seth Coleman, who, was a young player in our system when we first got here, to see the way he looks right now and know that he forgave a chance to go to the NFL. But some of the guys we've recruited since I've been here, Alec Bryan, I'm just so excited to see what he can do, where he's at. And just stay in that room. Trey Smith, like I said, Mason Moragan, these guys look totally different than they were in the fall. And let alone Gabe Ackus, who looks great falling off a truck, right? Like, I mean, he just naturally has that skill set. But, inside, Dylan Rosiak is a guy that, when we got here, obviously signed on a Wednesday before I took the job, but just been impressed with his physical development and growth. And as our lead play caller now, especially with Kanena out, that kind of to see his emotional and physical growth take part. And then in the back end to see Matt Bailey, he'd be the other guy. I'm sorry, Matt won't be able to do anything for us this spring, but he is right on the cusp of being ready. He's chomping at the bit, running full go now, and Unfortunately, it won't go through spring, but there's a guy, case in point, that he walks through the door. All these new coaches, when we hired him, they're like, where's he playing? Like, because he does have that look, he might be able to play a couple different spots, and you see our guys get excited about the way those guys look, appear, and walk. It's been pretty fun.
Thanks, Bret.
Fred, in terms of Luke Altmaier, just how excited are you based off of the journey that he had last year to see what kind of development you can have in these 15 practices with him and what he can get accomplished as he enters this next year?
Good question. Obviously, everybody always wants to talk about the cues, right? And Luke, coming from where he was a year ago to come into this system, to be with us all January, February, March, kind of in these conversations about how we're tweaking, modifying the things that we did a year ago. Maybe can actually do some things that build to his strengths rather than not knowing who he is or what he is. I think in a QB room, especially, one of the things that's about, I think, challenging with spring football is you want guys that have played winning football or guys that we feel have played winning football to see the growth that they can make. But on the same account, to have guys in that room, Donovan Leary in particular, right, a guy that we're really excited to see where he's at. But now you got Kirkland Michau, you got Trey Petty, you got Cal, you got these guys where maybe you don't want to give them the same menu as you do, right, at all positions, because you want to just see, hey, can they execute and play football? I don't want to slow down guys to see if they can play our scheme. I want to see if they can play football. We can build them off of that, right? So in the inside linebacker room, another guy, Malachi Hood, isn't going to be able to go with us, but a couple of these young linebackers, a couple of the young DBs, find out where these guys are and see how they can play offensively. Ashton Hollins, Malik Kelsey, Rio coming in from a junior college world. Like, you got these guys who look good, run good, and you're excited to see them work, but you want to see how they play football, and that's a big deal.
One of the things Barry talked to us about with Luke was he kept using the word urgency, Bret. I want to see an urgency out of him. Is that part of what you always talk about with taking somebody maybe out of their comfort zone and seeing how they can get better and take another step?
Well, Barry, coaches Q, so he works with him on a daily basis. I think one of the things that Luke brings to the table, he brings a skill set throwing wise that I don't know if I've had a quarterback that has as good a skill set of throwing the ball as him. He's got the ability to throw the deep ball, the short ball, the intermediate ball, and he has nice touch, right? I was watching, everybody, obviously, Wisconsin played Illinois in basketball last night. So right away I go back to I'm literally sitting in my office watching the basketball game on one TV, and I was watching our Wisconsin game because I couldn't get it out of my head, right? And I know at the end of the first half, he made a cut on a 4th and 2 call that went vertical for about 17 yards that I was like, that's an incredibly athletic play that you kind of forgot about in the course of the year, but it was a big play in that moment, right? So Luke has a lot of skills that I think maybe a year ago at this time we didn't know he had, and we can build around those things. But I think urgency might be one that Barry, I know, talks about. I just think, you only go as far as you start in Q, right? And for us to go where we want to go, Luke has a lot of growth. On the flip side of it, you look at last year after the Penn State game, I think the next course of next 3 to 4 games, he was 10 touchdowns to 2 interceptions, which you can live with, right? And unfortunately, the Minnesota game, changed the direction of his season, right? And I want to see that growth. I know Tank literally every week has talked about the growth of Luke Altmaier in the weight room in front of our guys, and really excited to see that come to life.
Thank you, Bret.
Yeah.
Hey, Bret, running back, is Josh available for you this spring?
Yeah, Josh McCray, obviously. Yeah, Josh.
Yeah.
I would guess, Joey, probably, I think it'd be fair to say. So we kind of have this, especially on offense, this group of players that have played, right, and kind of know the playbook and also just kind of the expectation. Then you have this large subset of guys that haven't played a lot of football and will maybe keep the package a little smaller, a little tighter, a little bit less paralysis through analysis, and just let them play, right? And Josh is the one guy at the running back position who's played a lot of football. He's had 2 years where injuries have played a significant factor in his PT, right? But he's been in every meeting, everything. He looks great. Him and I would say Aiden Lawfrey, I would say probably take the majority of the ones in that role and see where that can go. And then we have a cast of other guys that will be taking that next group, that subset of things. And then we'll involve Caden and Jordan Anderson. They aren't allowed to do a lot of physical contact, but they can do some things during course of practice that'll get them involved in the offense.
And then a defensive back, Brett, what do you hope that you guys can sort out in that secondary this spring that you can kickstart obviously into the summer and the fall?
Miles Scott is obviously a guy that we're expecting to kind of take the next step of leadership, right? Like I talked to him early in January, February, and he's really done a good job about getting those guys together. One of the changes we'll make philosophically, it's something I've always believed in. When I hired Ryan, he kind of wanted to go in a world where it was separated the DB world. I'd always had those guys my entire coaching career. One coach had coached all four of those guys. So when we made this change, I talked to Aaron in December when he decided to make a change was to bring everybody under one roof, right? So David and him will coach the secondary together in one room, and then they'll break off and kind of work with each other. David's worked with corners and safeties much like Aaron has. So I like that growth and that room in particular. I want to see Mac Rasetic, what he can bring to the world. Demetrius Hill is another guy that unfortunately won't be able to do a lot in the spring, but he's a guy that I think Mac, TJ, we've got a couple of nice additions in the DB world. Chase Canada, I think, will play a little bit of that kind of Xavier Scott corner to nickel type world. And see we are. I'm really excited. Caleb Patterson, T. Strain, Zach Toby, Jaheim Clark. At the safety position, Elijah McCantos is a guy that's been very impressive during the winter drills here to see exactly where he's at and where he's gone, and just really find out who our top 4 to 5 safeties and top 4 to 5 corners are.
Appreciate it, Brett. Thank you.
Coach, I know this is an important time of year for your team, but will you have a chance on Thursday to watch basketball?
I wish I could go. We actually, unfortunately, we have a high school coaches clinic starts Thursday night, and I'm scheduled to speak at, I believe, 6:30, which is in direct contrast, I think, with what we need to get done. But I literally I reach out to Brad and several of his staff every day. Couldn't be more excited. I think one of the things that really intrigued me when I came here, Brad, I think Josh called me on Monday. I think Brad called me on Tuesday during the recruiting process and just immediately identified he and I have a very good friend, Greg Lansing, used to be head coach at Indiana State. He introduced us, Brad and I, kind of for the first time in my career. I'm in the same age category and background and history as my head basketball coach, and really because of Josh's guidance, the basketball arena was set up with some recovery stuff that we didn't quite have here yet. So, his staff was awesome with us during the season, letting some of our guys coming off soft tissue and, was unbelievable, letting us use this facility. A lot of our guys interact with them. And yeah, I will watch every chance I get. Love to go to the women's game Thursday night as well if I can get to. But we have the clinic here, so it's kind of a bad timing for us in that regard. But hopefully, if things go well on Thursday, we'll be able to watch it on Saturday.
You've talked about this in the past. How important is their success to your success? I mean, the basketball team, you play off each other, correct?
Yeah, I think there's a great parallel. When Josh and I had conversations about maintaining success, right? Like I began to think about my career, right? Early in my career at Iowa was Dr. Tom and Hayden, which I know a lot of Illinois fans don't want to hear that, right? But that's the world I grew up in, right? And then, I went to Kansas State, and there was a little bit of a combo platter there. But when I went to Wisconsin, especially with Bo and Barry, I saw that, and then I was able to be a part of that. And then Gardo and I were young assistants and got to know each other real well. I actually had watched that game Friday with him, shot Gardo a text, and lo and behold, we're playing against each other on Sunday. And then to come here to have Brad on the front end of it. And also, just in this world that we're in, I know, basketball does very well in the transfer world, right? Which I think then kind of gave us a blueprint of what we could do here, just budgeting wise, right? Our our basketball program is one of the best in the conference and in the country, and we can kind of jump into that category. You can see the benefits of what that brings, right? So a lot of positives and a lot of correlations. And I also think, that some of those guys would probably, as good as they look in basketball uniforms, would look really good in football uniforms if they wanted to. I can just envision. I'm a big Danger fan. Like, it was ironic. I was talking to a recruit of ours that's in state here, a basketball player right down the road, and we were talking before the game, and he asked me who our favorite player was, and there's a natural couple that you would gravitate to, but I mentioned Danger just because I love what he looks like and plays like, and kind of that attitude. The boss, like I had a player that played from Waupun, Wisconsin, that I went to his high school or his home, and it was in Waupun, and it was a home on the outside, looked normal, and you went on the inside, it was actually a log cabin. It was one of the weirdest experiences I've ever had in my life, so that always jumps out to me. So to see him have his success and to see his family celebrate, it's just an awesome environment to watch.
Thanks, Coach.
Yep.
Hey, Brett, a little specific here, but I see that in-helmet communications is up for approval next month. Is that something you're anticipating and going to be using this spring? And how do you see that transition happening if it does come to fruition?
Yeah, great question, Scott. It's 100%. I don't think it's needing approval. It's going to happen. I think it's going to be the NFL model. There's been a lot of conversation. At first, I started hearing like 3 to 5, maybe even more on both sides of football, but I think it's going to get down to the NFL, one headset communication on both sides at any given time. So naturally on offense, it'll be our cue. On defense, it'll be the signal caller in the front end or the back end. For us in the spring, we're only allotted 3. So our number 1 and number 2 quarterback will have that, and then we're going to put one on the defense side and rotate through with it and kind of see where it goes. Also, this year, I believe we're going to have tablet technology on the sideline, which allows us to see the game a little more clear as it happens and unfolds. So those 2 categories, I've been, even when I was back in 2010, maybe 11, I tried to get it on when replay came into Big Ten, it was on a 1-year trial basis, but before anybody else used it. So I tried to use that same rule to get it into the college world back then, and then I tried to get in the SEC when I was at Arkansas. So to have it finally come full circle now, I think any introduction is good. I think we should have more of it, not less of it, and catch that. There's nothing more frustrating than on a bye week to go watch a high school game and see them watch a game live on the sidelines and have sideline technology during a game, and to think we're watching a high school team. And we got a Division I football program with all this money available to it. So it's good to see us finally enter the equation, and where it goes is I'm sure they'll ask coaches, but a lot of that's up to the hierarchs that make that happen.
Thank you.
Robert, nothing, man. You just kind of, you never get to sleep last night. You got no questions? Or?
I looked for you on Kirby. I got home about 3. I'm guessing.
I have a 5-year-old today, so we were knee deep in a birthday celebration because I left this morning about 4:30 this morning, and I'm not getting home till late, so I had to celebrate a birthday a day early. So that was my celebration.
I had to get up and return the rental car before 8, so I'm useless today.
Love it.